Hey guys, Colorado Dave here. This is Knives in Our Lives, and you are basically watching my YouTube channel, but I do also have an Instagram channel that's the same, Knives in Our Lives. It's at Knives in Our Lives, and it is underscored between the spaces. So anyway, if you guys would consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you hit the notifications button, it'll let you know of any new videos I have coming out. I am trying to keep current, and I'm trying to keep up with my comments as well. And so hopefully you guys are hearing back from me. I am getting some great comments, which I appreciate. Thanks, guys. Today, we're here to talk about the Spyderco Salt 2 series. And this is the new green version done in the, what I would call hyper green, for lack of a better term. And this is a knife that is coming out of a different Spyderco plant than I've ever bought from. And this is coming out of, what is it, Sake City, Japan. And so this is actually a Japanese-made knife for Spyderco. And this is one of the plants that I've never bought from. I know they do the Delicas there, the Delica 4, and this knife is based on the Delica 4. There's a lot of similarities to this knife. There's some minor differences, but there are a lot of similarities, especially in the handle. The difference in this knife is this knife was made to be 100% corrosion resistant. This is made to be part of the Salt series. And what they've done is they basically have upgraded the steel that they've been using in their current Salt series by switching over to the LC200N, which is that's what they've been using on like the Spidey Chef, for example, is one of the knives that they currently use that steel on. And they've had great success with it and realized that it's, you know, almost 100% corrosion resistant. And so they've decided to put it into their Salt series. And it does retain an edge substantially better than the H1 steel. And so you will get better edge retention and you will get a better cutting knife with the LC200N. So have confidence in that. That's the reason they put this line out. I'm excited about it. This specific knife is called the Salt 2. And like I said, this is a direct matchup to the Delica 4, basically. Very, very similar knife to the Delica 4, size-wise and everything across the board. Let's do some comparisons actually here real quick so we can kind of get it out of the way. This is not a real big knife. I'll put a couple big knives against it just to show you. That's the Civivi Praxis, for example. I just did a dye job on those scales, which I'm actually really happy with. It turned out good. They were orange before, and I just turned them to the red. But you can see that that's a much bigger knife, the Praxis. Let's put that away. Just because I have it here, let's show it off too. Put it up against my large Sabenza 31, which is obviously a bigger knife. You can see that this is not a huge knife. Okay, let's put it up against the Spyderco Spidey Chef. How do you like that? That's the anodized one. That's pretty slick, huh? But you can tell again, the Spidey Chef is still a bigger knife. Not huge, not a lot bigger, but it's definitely a bigger knife. Okay, let's see what else we got up here. We can put it up against the 940, just because everything's fun to put up against the 940. You got that same slim narrowness to the knife that you would get from the Salt 2 or from the Delica 4, but definitely a much longer knife. You can see the blade's much bigger. It's got a bigger handle and stuff as well, so not a perfect matchup. All right, this is probably a much better matchup. This is my Para 3 Maximate. But you can see size-wise, now we're talking. That's a much, much better matchup. Very similar size. So if you want to compare it to something, the Para 3 would be a really good size comparison for you to compare it to. I will show you a couple others because they look closer in size too. How about the CJRB Rhea? Another one. Size-wise, length-wise, almost identical. A little bit more narrow of a knife, but almost identical. You can definitely see the similarities size-wise in that as well. So if you guys are familiar with that knife, maybe that helps you. And the last one that's going to be on that smaller size, that's going to fit similar size-wise, is almost identical as our QSP Penguin. Look at that. That's really close in size as well. So that should give you a better idea. This is not a huge knife. It's not a small knife. I have a lot of bigger knives, and so for me it falls on the more smaller side. But by most people's standards, I would say it's probably average, you know. But beautiful, beautiful size. great ergos in hand. Feels really, really, really nice in hand. I think I'd started to tell you this knife is 100% corrosion resistant. So even the clip itself is, it is painted or coated or whatever they've done to it, but it's actually titanium, which is nice. All the hardware and the screws and everything, they've all been coated so that they're protected and they're water sealed and resistant. They've made this knife 100% basically waterproof so that you can do whatever you really want with it around water, which is, I just think it's pretty darn cool. FYI on this pocket clip, by the way, it fits great in hand. I do not feel that clip. Even though that's a decent sized clip, I do not feel that clip in hand at all, like zero, like none. No matter what position I'm holding it in, it's just not in my way. And so very, very happy with the way the clip works. The color, guys, I'm not sold on the green. I'm probably gonna dye the scales. I've actually got a couple dyes here at the house that I'm thinking about using, or I might go pick up another color because I'm not positive about the ones that I have here in house. But help me out. If you guys got anything in your comments on thoughts on what color to go with up against this green. I don't know what to do. I don't want it to be black. I thought about going bright red just to be different. I think it would go good and it would pop with the red. Navy blue, I just don't know. It could be a hit or miss. It could end up turning out almost black, and so I'm not that hip on that idea. I could go with a lighter blue maybe, but will a lighter blue take with this? Because I'm still just learning how to dye. I've only dyed a couple times, and I'm hoping that if I dye these scales that this green's not going to get in the way. So I know I have to dye them dark enough. So sorry, I'm getting totally sidetracked. But if you guys have any comments or any thoughts on what color to dye these that you think would look good, I'm listening, because I'm just not into the green. I understand the purpose of the green. For those of you who don't, the reason Spyderco did it that way is that if you drop your knife in the water, because this knife is made to be around water, that you can see it. You can see it very well underneath the water. And that's the purpose of it. I'm not that concerned about dropping my knife underneath the water, that I would much rather just have a fun color. So I am considering changing the color on it. If you guys have any thoughts, let me know. But the purpose of it is for underwater, that you can see the knife at certain depths, etc. So it really does have a purpose, as Spyderco usually does, because they're awesome as a company that way. But anyway, so we did our comparisons. What do we want to get into? We talked about this knife being from Japan. And we've talked about the fact that this has LC200N steel on it, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, they've had it on the Spidey Chef here now for a few years. They've had great success with it. It's basically 100% corrosion free. The advantage of this steel versus like H1, which is what they've been using in the Salt series, the advantage of this steel is that you're getting a steel that retains an edge a lot better, and it's a lot slicier, and it's gonna hold an edge just much, much better. And so I think you'll be happy with the result of it. If you liked H1, you're gonna really like this, bottom line. And it's not taking anything away from H1. But those are probably the biggest differences as far as the actual steel. For those of you who didn't know, if you see the designer on that, and I don't know, hopefully I got that underneath the camera okay, but Sal is the one that is the designer on this one, Sal Glesser, which is the original owner, Eric's father. And anyway, this is his design. And I believe he designed the Delica as well, so I'm assuming that's why he did this design also. But it is pretty cool. It's a really nice feeling knife in hand. It is a little bit, the FRN, there's no liners whatsoever. I haven't mentioned that, but there is no steel liners whatsoever in this knife. But what they did was they took the FRN and they basically widened it, made it a little bit fatter, so it makes your hand feel a little bit more full with this knife in hand versus the Delica. You know, so that's one of the differences between them. They also, on the back spacer here, they've textured it. If you can see that there, that's all been textured, which is kind of interesting. So that's new too. But definitely a cool little knife. And you know, the action's fine on it. I'm breaking it in. It is a lockback for those of you that aren't familiar with that, so it's not going to be a compression lock. So it's a little bit different locking system. I'm having fun with it because I haven't, lockback for me, I've owned one other one, I think, in my life. So for me, I'm just having fun with it because I'm breaking it in and I'm just learning the lock and how to play with it in different ways and stuff like that. So I am having fun with it, but it's not for everybody, and I get it. It's definitely, it can be more of a two-handed knife depending on how you open it, but you can definitely open this with one hand very easily as well. So it just depends. But love it. So far, I love it, guys. I really, really do. I told you about the hardware already. We've talked a lot about the corrosion resistant. As far as the visibility on the handle, we talked about all that. I just made some notes over here on the side, guys, so I'm taking a look at them. I don't care. I'm not proud. We talked about the fact that there's no liners in the knife, which is interesting, which makes it very, very light. Let's measure this thing real quick. I do happen to have a scale here in front of me. So let's put the scale down here and see what we got. Whoop, come on. Just to show you guys how light this knife is, because it doesn't have any liners. Look at that, it's 1.894, so it's less than 1.9, I think is what the spec says, is 1.9, but it's less than 2 ounces. So you're looking at an extremely light knife, guys. Very, very light knife. But yet it's solid, it's solid. There's no play in this knife. Mine came perfectly centered. I don't know if you can see that or not, if I'm doing that well or not. I don't know how much justice I'm doing to that, guys. I'm trying, I'm still learning. But bottom line, it is centered. It's definitely centered. And hopefully you can see that from the view you got. What else can I tell you about it? Let's see, it's got the pocket clip. Okay, let's talk about the pocket clip. You got 4 ways you can go with the pocket clip. So you can basically do like most people would do, which would be tip up. Okay, so tip up's gonna be, bear with me here. So your tip up, that's gonna be your normal carry, like this with your tip up, okay? And that's for a right-handed person. So you could switch it the other way, make it for a left-handed person and have it tip up, or it gives you the option of turning it over and doing tip down for lefty or righty. So you can do all 4 options, which is kind of cool. So that's pretty cool. Guys, I think for now, that might be all I have on this knife. I just wanted to give you a first impressions, what I thought of it, how it felt in the hand. I'm not used to dealing with many FRN knives. I'm not. I've owned one other FRN knife in my life, and that was a Sage 5. And that was a pretty cool knife as well. That's the lightweight, but I really liked it as well. This is like the second knife that I've had that's FRN, so it's all brand new to me. And as far as having a lockback, that's all brand new to me. But I just know that I love LC200N. And I know that if I got this, I'd be happy because this knife will be awesome because I can take it anywhere. I also play around in the kitchen a lot, so I'm not afraid to pull this out of my pocket and play in the kitchen and do whatever because I know I can't hurt the knife. And that's what I guess makes this knife a lot of fun. But anyway, guys, I hope that helps you guys out on your decision. If you're thinking, if you're on the line and saying, hey, maybe I like this, maybe I don't, I'm not sure if I should try it. I think to get your hands on LC200N at around just over $100, I think it's a great way to go because it's a great steel at a reasonable price, and they're able to do it because they have done it in FRN and because it is Spyderco and because of their size and because they know what they're doing with the steel. It's a great chance to get your hands on LC200N, and I highly recommend that if you have not worked with it or played with it, that you definitely do because it's a great steel. I really, really like the steel. I like the way that it sharpens. I like the way that it cuts. I'm a huge, huge fan of the steel. It's one of my favorite steels, even just for a regular EDC, having nothing to do with the water. It's just a great, great all-around blade and steel. So enough babbling for now, guys. Signing off, Colorado Dave. This is Knives in Our Lives. Again, please do subscribe, guys. I could really use the help. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you later.